The reading is taken from John, the Gospel of John, chapter 9, a selection of verses. Jesus heals a man born blind. His neighbours and those who had formerly seen him begging asked, "Isn't this the same man who used to sit and beg?" The Pharisees investigate the healing. They brought to the Pharisees the man who had been blind. Now the day on which Jesus had made the mud and opened the man's eyes was a Sabbath. Therefore the Pharisees also asked him how he had received his sight. "He put mud on my eyes," the man replied, "and I washed, and now I see." Some of the Pharisees said, "This man is not from God, for he does not keep the Sabbath." But others asked, "How can a sinner perform such signs?" So they were divided. Then they turned again to the blind man. "What have you to say about him? It was your eyes he opened." Then they asked him, "What did he do to you? How did he open your eyes?" And he answered, "I have told you already, and you did not listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you want to become his disciples too?" Then they hurled insults at him and said, "You are this fellow's disciple. We are disciples of Moses. We know that God spoke to Moses, but as for this fellow, we don't even know where he comes from." And the man answered, "If this man were not from God, he could do nothing." To this they replied, "You were steeped in sin at birth. How dare you lecture us?" And they threw him out. This is the word of God.
Is that working? Oh, great. That's the first hurdle surmounted. Hi, everyone. Hello. It's nice to see you all. I'm not sure where I'm going to balance this. This is one of my props. I'm very excited to have props for the first time. I'm looking forward to speaking to you all. So this is kind of the one before the last in the series that we've been doing, which is the miracles of Jesus. And we're going to be talking about the man that was born blind. So there's some really interesting elements in this story that hopefully you will go with me on a journey of kind of just talking through and discovering. As I was rereading it, getting ready for this, I discovered a lot more. So hopefully that will be fun for people that have been Christians for a long time. You might discover something new about the story as well. So there are three things for me that were happening in the background of the story that basically all come together in the story. So before we actually get into the kind of detail of the story, we're going to talk a little bit about some of these things. So right at the top, you can see some grass and some roots. So for me, one of the things that I can see here is God's grassroots approach to the gospel. So the first thing that we need to know about God is, and about the Bible, is that essentially it's the story of God wooing mankind. So kids, ask your parents what wooing means. I'm joking. That's fine. Essentially wooing means he's winning our hearts. He's basically just trying to just win our attention for him so that we choose him and we choose him completely. And he does that through what's called the gospel, the good news message. But here's the thing, the way he chose to do that is the most interesting thing. So I'm going to reach over to my props now. Hopefully this works. So if I were God, obviously God is spirit, I'm going to put on a couple of these bits. So this is a towel, yes. I don't have any royal robes at home, I'm afraid. Okay, hopefully this is balancing. So if I was God, I do project management at work. So if I was going to plan this project, essentially, I would basically do a worldwide press release. People might not know what that is if you're not in work. But essentially, I would message every important person in the entire world. So I'd go to Africa, I'd go to Asia, and I'd speak to them and say, listen up, guys, okay? My son's coming. I'd send them a photo of him at 30, because that's when he's going to start his ministry. I'd say, he's a really good guy. Look out for him. He's really powerful. He can teach you a lot. And then basically what would have happened to Jesus is that his 3 years on earth, where he was doing his ministry, would probably have been booked completely solid. So I don't think that necessarily would have been a good thing if he'd done that approach, because basically he'd just be going to loads of fancy parties, and he'd be with the most important people, but it wouldn't have penetrated. The message wouldn't have gone to where it needed to go. It wouldn't have gone to ordinary people like us in the same way. And actually in the Old Testament, we've seen that God actually kind of did that approach with Moses and Pharaoh, with Daniel, with lots of different parts of the Old Testament. He did go to the heads of state, but then he needed to come again with Jesus and kind of send the message another way. So one of the things that's really interesting about the way the gospel went out and is still going out is that it's not being conveyed to by the powerful and the rich. It might be coming from your neighbour. It might be that you hear the gospel from someone at Tesco that just comes up to you. One friend had someone come to speak to her on a train about Jesus. It could be from anyone. And what it just takes a bit of openness to listen to it, because when you haven't heard the gospel before, it kind of shocks you and it shakes everything you know. You're like, how on earth did I not know this? If this is real, how on earth could I have gone through my life not knowing this? And the way that's done, the best way, God knows best, the way he chose to do that was from the grassroots. So Jesus was modeling this for us, essentially. He was showing exactly what that looked like, to spread the gospel from the bottom up. So I kind of see it like an adult or a parent climbing onto a toddler's balance bike. I don't know if you've done this, to show your children how to use them. You're kind of like, it's really tiny. You're kind of like in this tiny little thing, and like, come on! We had, Sebastian did not get along with his trikes when we bought them, so I literally had to kind of get in there and show him how to use them. So this is funny to me because, we see in the Bible, Jesus says it himself in Matthew, his power is limitless, okay? He could do anything. He could literally have spread the gospel in any way. And we just saw a glimpse of his power on earth, but he was demonstrating something to us. He was actually coming down and showing us what it looked like to spread the gospel. Number 2, the thing in the background. So this is the bottom, the blue one with the faces. So Jesus did all of this stuff in the midst of a lot of negative pressure. And I think that's really important because, we might face some of this as well. So in the chapter beforehand, Jesus is getting a lot of heat. So the Pharisees tried to trap him, talking about the woman caught in adultery. They tried to catch him out, but he schooled them. That's me trying to use a young people's phrase. I don't think I'm saying it correctly, but he schooled them. Okay, he showed them. He was too pure. He was too wise. He couldn't be caught out. He showed them exactly what holiness looked like, what truth looked like. But he did all of that from a place of adversity. People were not making it easier for him. Every single day, essentially, was a battle, and it got worse and worse up to the end. So people that are in high school, that might sound a little bit familiar, being a Christian in the context of lots of social pressure. It wasn't easy for Jesus. And then the last one that I want to mention is something that people might not have noticed, but in the chapter, it kind of talks about how Jesus essentially, when he was healing the blind man, he sent him to somewhere called the Pool of Siloam. So this kind of brings us back to something a little while ago. So in the Bible, so in Nehemiah, it might not be a part of the Bible you're as familiar with, but essentially Jerusalem was a ruin a long time ago. Lots of people, lots of families then got together to build it back up again in the face of huge opposition. And the pool in this story has a really rich history because that was one of the key ruins that was rebuilt in the time of Nehemiah. And essentially Nehemiah was all about intercession and intense prayer, and it was about resisting the enemy's attack on what God was doing. And God was trying to kind of build up structures and sort of make up a place. Jerusalem basically stood for everything that stands for God, everything that God is all about, being visible to the world. So that was a really important work. And then when the pool was built, it became an essential source of water for everyone, which speaks of the living water. It speaks of Jesus. It was a place that everyone used every day. So it was an everyday source of water and refreshment for the people. That's all really significant to me. All right, so we've got God spreading the word in a grassroots way. We've got Jesus modeling the way we should do things. We've got Jesus keeping going even though the opposition was really bad and it got really much worse. And then we've got the foundation of praying and keeping going even with opposition. So then when we come to this story, hopefully the clicker's working, we have all of this to consider. This is all going on in the background, okay? And then we've got the man that was born blind. Essentially, he was an outcast in a religious sense. So way back in Leviticus 22, if people are familiar, there was all this stuff that was said, if you were born blind, you couldn't participate in certain parts of the community life, all right? So when he was in that situation, he didn't have a lot of influence, but then he encounters Jesus. Jesus spits into some mud, okay? He then gets that mud, he rubs it on his eyes, and then he says, off you go to the pool of Siloam, okay? And then he does what Jesus asks him to. By the way, the pool that he goes to wash in is actually called sent. That's the other word for another meaning of the word Siloam. And then we see an amazing transformation with this guy. So he goes in, he washes up. Oh, this is a really bad prop. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm trying my best. Okay? And we see a massive transformation. So I'm going to touch on that in a little bit, but I'm going to take a quick break to do a little fun version of a popular game show. And then we're going to come back with what I take away from this chapter. So this took me a really long time to edit. Hopefully this works for everyone. What I've got is some prizes, okay? So this is an incentive. What I'd like us to do, we're going to play Who Wants to Be a Sent One? Okay? And I'm going to, if anyone wants to answer the questions, I want everyone to have a look at the answers and just have a little think about it in your mind. But whoever wants to shout out an answer can do. And I'm going to give you one of these are Galaxy cake bars. They're very Moorish, so hopefully this is a good prize. Okay, so question 1. Are we ready? Yes. Okay, so you meet someone new and you really like them. When do you tell them that you're a Christian? A, first few conversations or just when it comes up naturally. B, when you know them really, really well, so maybe kind of a year plus, maybe. C, never, unless they're a Christian themselves. Or D, none of the above. Who's ready to answer this one for me? Who wants to have a cake bar? Ooh, anyone? Oh, well, okay, I'm going to come back to the children. I'm going to go with, oh, there we go. Oh, sorry. Well, good, well caught. What would you answer? Okay, and why would you choose A?
Because that's when you say it when it comes naturally.
Okay, I like it. Fabulous, well done. Okay, we're going to go for question 2. So, you are usually a hearing aid user, but you were recently healed when someone prayed for you. Someone at school, so you're a school pupil, someone at school notices that you're no longer wearing your hearing aids and asks about it. No one else in your class is a Christian, and people who have been open about their faith in your school have been bullied. What do you say? So A, you avoid explaining, you say, make an excuse, I just left them at home. B, you say, yes, actually, it's a crazy story. A friend of mine who was a Christian just prayed for me, and I took out my hearing aids, and it was just crazy. I started to hear from them. That's amazing, isn't it? So you actually tell them the story in B. C, you tell them the story, and you ask if they know much about this kind of thing, Jesus and healing, and offer to tell them a little bit more about it. D, none of the above. Okay, right, who's ready? Okay, Susie, you've been very passionate. Okay. Ooh. Okay, what would you say? C, why would you say C? Oh, I don't know if everyone heard Susie, but that was the most stunning answer. I probably should have gotten the hand mic. I'm going to repeat what you said. Susie said, I think I'm going to paraphrase, she said that there's only way, people need to know about Jesus and you have to tell them. Is that right? Yeah. Amazing. Whoop, whoop, whoop. There is no judgment if your answers are slightly different. It's just a game. All right, I'm going to go for the very last question. Okay, so a new person starts at work. They mention that they have terrible back pain and they're not sure that they're going to be able to get through the day. So they ask if you can point them in the right direction for where they could get some pain relief. What do you say? A, you offer to show them where they can buy some paracetamol. B, you offer to pray for them. Would it be okay if I prayed for you? No, you can read the rest. C, both A and B. Or D, none of the above. Who would like to answer this one? Ooh, maybe a young person. Yes? Yeah, okay, ready? I don't know whether my throwing is that good. Woo! Well done. I think that needs a clap on its own. All right, what is your answer? I'm going to repeat it so everyone can hear. C. Why C? Fabulous. There we go. Right, so I don't know if everyone heard that. I'm going to repeat it. Praying can help and also paracetamol can help. Does everyone agree? Yeah. Okay. Well done. Well done, everyone. Okay. I'm so sorry that I didn't have more treats, but hopefully that was fun. All right, so I'm going to carry on with the story. I'm not going to leave this up because it might be, well, I don't know how to do it. Okay, thank you. All right, so really interesting. What I really love about this story and what I've rediscovered about this story is that basically the transformation that we see is that actually, and I've not actually noticed this before kind of getting ready for today, but essentially this guy actually basically comes out with quite a bit of courage, and he has something that's really unusual, especially in that time, because, you know, this was before the cross. He has real clarity about the purity of Jesus. And I think that's pretty incredible, actually. So he says to the Pharisees when they an argument breaks out, basically. The Pharisees are really kind of obviously threatened by Jesus' power. And they kind of say, oh, who healed you? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. And started to get really aggressive. They ask his parents, and his parents are like, don't ask us. The parents are not willing to put their social standing, okay, in any jeopardy. So the parents, you know, weren't necessarily the best example in that story. But this guy, okay, he's been a social outcast. He's able to stand up and just say with clarity, actually, if this man wasn't from God, he wouldn't be able to heal. I don't know if you noticed that, but I think that's the significance of this miracle, because we know in the Bible it says that there were so many miracles that Jesus did. There were more miracles than could be written down in all the books in all the world. But actually, only 37 were in the Gospels. So there's significance to the ones that we see. So he goes to this pool, he encounters Jesus. Suddenly he's brave enough to defiantly speak the truth in the face of enormous pressure, because this could have been his chance. This could have been his way back in socially. He could have actually said, you know what, I'm not sure about that. I'm with you guys. He could have actually completely disowned Jesus. We see with the 10 lepers, only one of them came back. Jesus healed him. He didn't ask him for anything more, but he actually chose to stand up and say the truth. And he was cast out because of it. And I think that's incredible. Do you know why that's relevant? I think this is because this is one of the biggest challenges that we face today, if we're honest with ourselves. It's actually the fear of telling our story. How many of us have told, you know, the people at work that we're a Christian? How many people? How many people feel kind of uncomfortable with that? You know, that kind of might jeopardize your chances of promotion. It might jeopardize a couple of things for you socially. We have this kind of intimidation and this apprehension. And we sometimes think if we're really, really normal, or if we're as much like everyone else as possible, people might not think Christians are weird and might come to God. But actually, faith itself is supernatural. Faith itself is supernatural. Believing in Jesus doesn't come from anything that we influence. It doesn't come from being cool or being really likable. It just comes because no one can come to the Father unless he draws them. So whatever's happening, whatever you say to people, if you say something and it fumbles and it just doesn't sound awesome, the only reason that someone would actually become a believer and start believing in Jesus is because God's working in the background and he's drawing people to himself. So there's no need to have that pressure. And I think it's really important that we break this fear of man, this fear of how people see us. We need to just stand up and just say, I love Jesus. He's amazing. He's changed my life. You might not have the perfect words, but just say them because Jesus will back it up. Okay? He'll back it up. Even if you're rejected, keep going. You never know where that fruit will go if you're just saying whatever, you know. I was really depressed and I turned to Jesus, I went to church one day. Whatever your story is, it doesn't need to be awesome. It doesn't need to be kind of a massive testimony. It might change someone's life, and God will work in the background and perfect that. So that is essentially what I wanted to share with you. There's a little bit more that I noticed about the pool of Siloam, but we are out of time. So what I would encourage you all to do is do a little study, because there's some really interesting elements there about the foundations and some more of the meaning. But yeah, I just hope that everyone takes something away from this message and takes away some fresh courage to be a sent one in their community. Amen.